Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Money Matters with Hong Lu at Cash Property Inc. And so today we are going to get started. It is January the 20th already, 2025. Can you believe it? Like we're almost done January. It's been absolutely crazy. So welcome to another episode. Today we're going to be talking about how much does it actually really cost you to execute on an opportunity? So the reason why this is coming up is because a few fellow investors, whether new or seasoned, we always toy with the idea that, hey, you know what? Interest rates are way higher now. And so it might be better to sit on the sidelines rather than taking out a loan at one of the higher rates. And so sometimes it actually may make sense to still proceed with an opportunity, even if the interest rates are higher. So we're going to talk about what exactly, like how much is this new opportunity actually really costing you? And so it's a different shift in thinking here. So before we get into that, I do have to say, okay, this the the education that I'm giving here is really just educational purposes. Okay, treat it as entertainment. Double check the information. Reach out to me if you need more support, more number crunching here. Also reach out to your own team. Okay, the advice that I give on these calls may not be right for you. Okay, so before we get into the calculations, I want to say thank you to all of the participants who showed up on Friday for our mastermind session. We had a great session, and we had Adiola present on his way of analyzing opportunities, and he showed how powerful his spreadsheet can be in terms of adjusting one number and just like a gazillion other things changed. So thank you very much, Adiola, for presenting. And thank you to all of the participants who showed up that night and asked tons of questions. It really shows the level of commitment we have in growing our real estate portfolio when people are showing up at 8 p.m. at night on a Friday night to learn and support each other in real estate. So thank you very much, everybody, for doing that. The other thing to share with you guys before we get going on the analysis is the presentation that's coming up next Tuesday. If you are local to Vancouver and can come, please do so. So I will include this in the Facebook link below, and I will also make sure that it is available on the YouTube channel as well. If you are local to Vancouver and you're able to attend this event, it is coming up. Okay, and highly recommend it that you do come because I'm going to be presenting on two topics here. One is how we are increasing the value of a property by $1.8 million from an easy trick. Okay. Yes, this trick is commonly known out there, but it's so easy that it's often overlooked. Okay. And so in the Facebook chat box, it's the link for this event. The other thing that I'm going to be talking about at this event is also my campground acquisition. So I'm going to talk about those two things that evening. And if you're able to attend, it'd be nice to be able to put names to faces and just keep the communication going. Okay, so that's what we're doing next week. And then, okay, so let's jump right into this calculation here. Oh, before I forget, okay, so this is hosted by the Wealth Development Network. So thank you, Harry, and thank you, Trent, for inviting me to speak at this event. So I'm hoping lots of people will turn out. Okay, so that is this event here. So let me get into the Excel sheet. All right, so this is something that this particular topic, what I find will hold a lot of people back from making an investment opportunity because the mindset is, well, Hung, it's going to cost me way more money for this investment opportunity. So let's run through the scenario and let's just look at a couple of this opportunity, and then we'll go through why it might make sense to still execute on this opportunity, even though the rates are a little bit higher. Okay, so I'm bringing up my mortgage calculator here. Okay, so outside, like in addition to the cash flow and the opportunity, one of the biggest things one of the biggest consideration is the debt servicing on an opportunity. So let's just say we've got a $2 million mortgage here, and we're able to get the mortgage at 4%, which is what a lot of us have been used to in the last few years. Okay, so we're running this at a 30-year amortization. Okay, so just follow with me on this example first, okay? So what that means is in terms of debt servicing, we're paying about 9,500 a month, okay, which is quite a lot. So you just have to make sure that the opportunity cash flows enough to pay $9,500. Okay. And this is assuming that you're doing a cash flow strategy here. So 9,500 is what you would be paying per month at 4% interest rate. Okay. So now let's just say for some reason you can't qualify for 4%. Okay. To qualify for 4% in normal situations, if you were to go to a traditional lender, they would base this on your credit score, your credibility. They would stress test the property, stress test you, all of that normal criteria for lending. Okay. So now let's just say you can't qualify at 4%, okay, which a lot of us are going through right now because of changes in regulations and stress testing and so forth like that. So let's just say you qualify, but it's at a 7% interest rate or higher. Okay, so let's just run it at 7% and let's just see what happens. So usually what happens is at this point, people would be like, hey, you know what, Hong? It's at 7%. I now have to pay 13,100 a month. The opportunity doesn't make sense anymore because now I have to pay an extra $4,000. Okay. So now let's just say for some reason, if your opportunity still cash flows, okay, does it still make sense to invest even at 7%? Okay. So at this point, a lot of investors would not pursue it, even if it cash flows a little bit. Okay. And especially if it doesn't cash flow, they'd be like, there's no way I'm going into an opportunity at 7% and it doesn't cash flow. Okay. So here's what I would say to you is that, okay, even if it's negative cash flowing a little bit, okay, even if it's just cash flowing a little bit, okay, you may want to consider doing this opportunity even if it's at 7%, even if it's just cash flowing a little bit, even if it's cash flowing negative a little bit, okay? And the reason for this advice is because if you can force appreciate, if there's a way for you to get out of this higher interest rate number within a short period of time, like maybe 1 year or 2 years, and you will then be able to transition over to a lower interest rate at 4%, let's say, or even 5%, and then be cash flowing significantly, it might make sense for you to go into an opportunity at the higher interest rate because now you're in the game. Okay. So let's do a comparison here between the 4% and the 7%, and let's see what that looks like. Okay. So here on this tab here, let me make this a little bit bigger. Oh, you know what? That last one would be fine. Okay. So comparing scenario 1 at 4% and scenario 2 at 7%. Okay. Everything else, assuming it's the same, okay, your monthly payments is 9,500 versus 13,000. Okay, that delta is 3,600. Okay, so what it is really costing you is not $13,000. What this opportunity is costing you is 3,600. Okay, and the reason for saying that is because you would have to get another product, let's say at 4%, and that's going to cost you 9,500. Okay. But if you don't qualify for that, and the only thing you can qualify is for this scenario 2 at 7%, well, the difference of that is the 3,600. That's what this opportunity is really costing you. It's that 3% difference in interest rate, which is $3,600. Okay. So what stops a lot of investors is they think, oh, well, this opportunity at 7% is costing me 13,000. No, it's not. It's actually just costing you 3,600. Okay. It's the delta of those two scenarios. Okay. And so what I've put over here is that as long as the opportunity cash flows, okay, then you're doing pretty good. Okay, so even if it's still cash flowing, and I would say even if it cash flows a little bit or negative a little bit, and you have other cash flow opportunities coming in that will help you carry that, it still might make sense for you to do this opportunity. If you're able to force the appreciation and if you can refinance in 1 to 2 years, it might make sense. So for example, that other next week when I present on that opportunity that I'm working on, we're going to be able to force appreciate within 6 months. Okay. $1.8 million. Okay. That forced appreciation is massive. Like we're going to be able to go back to the lender and be like, hey, you know what? We've just increased the value by this much. We want to refinance. Okay. If we can refinance, we can pull that cash out, which is tax free. Okay. And we can go do another opportunity with it. Or we can go to another lender altogether. Okay. And just reduce the loan to value, which will decrease our interest rates and potentially decrease our cash flow or our debt servicing. Okay. The third thing to point out is, will you get an influx of cash so that you can refinance with another investor? This is where if you know you're going to have an influx of like a windfall from another project or from another avenue stream, you can potentially acquire this opportunity and then have that influx of cash to help you bridge that period and then go and refinance because now your loan to value is going to be lower. Okay. So that may give you that space to go and get a lower interest rate. Okay. The other thing to think about too is that if you're buying an opportunity and you yourself, your credit score, your character, you're needed to loan sponsor or you're needed to provide that support for the opportunity, are you going to be able to improve that within the 1 to 2 year time frame? Because if you are, then you're going to be able to potentially go to another lender or refinance and decrease your interest rate. Okay. Now, depending on the asset class that you're buying, your credit score or your character, you yourself may not have any impact on that, but that is still something to consider. Okay, so in terms of, how much it's really costing you, assuming everything else is the same, really what you're doing is you're just looking at the delta of the interest rates that you're getting from what you could qualify for to what you would get if you went the traditional route that everybody usually would qualify for. And I'm saying that usually would qualify for because as investors, we don't usually qualify for the best scenario one anymore. Okay, so now let's run this a little bit with, let's say 4% is the scenario one, and let's just increase this to private lending rates, okay, which is around 10%, okay, best case scenario. I have seen some private lending at 12 to 15%, so let's run it at 10, okay. The same advice applies here, okay, assuming everything else is the same, okay. You just have to make sure that you're cash flowing at 10% or that the cash flow is just a little bit below your neutral. So a little bit of negative cash flow may be okay for you. Okay. So your monthly payment here is $17,000, which is significant. Okay. But what this opportunity now is really costing you is about 7,700. So as long as your opportunity can carry this delta amount, that's what this opportunity is really costing you. Okay. So that's the mindset shift here. It's not costing you 17,000 because you'd have to pay 9,500 anyways if you were to qualify for a traditional best lending situation. Okay. So what this opportunity at 10% is really costing you is 7,700. Okay. That is what I am presenting today. Hopefully that makes some sense. Short analysis today, because assuming everything else is the same, okay? So if you're cash flowing and if you know how to run your analysis, okay, If you need help with your analysis, reach out to me. I've got my breakthrough analysis paralysis training program. Okay. It is worth the time to figure out how to analyze properly so that you don't make costly mistakes. Okay. So reach out to me if you want to learn and improve your analysis. Um, okay. Awesome. That is all I've got for today, everybody. Thank you so very much for tuning in and hope you have an awesome week. Thank you. Bye-bye.